Hey YouTube, quick episode this time. Quick tavern talk on like some of the quest rewards and how we're rating them right now. So yesterday I did a 4-hour some long discussion with EducatedCollins, Mr. Incredible, Sleepy Hearthstone, and Jay Keurig. Alucard was there for a little bit, so lots of top level players, lobby legends caliber, you know, historically great players, great theory minds about the game of Battlegrounds, and this is the tier list we came up with. Now, few opening caveats is quest tier lists are very difficult to do. This is a general level. All of these are going to be pickable at some point because it's very dependent on how difficult the quest is. So keep that in mind when you're looking at these and you get a quest and you look at it, you're like, I'm not going to be able to finish it, but it says it's S tier. Well, if you can't finish it, you can't finish it. It's good. There's no value. It doesn't matter where it is on the tier list, right? So that's a big thing. And part of that is accounted for in this, and I'll explain it as I go through it. But I just wanted to make sure that I put that out there up front for you guys to consider. And then we'll talk about some of this stuff. So we'll start from the bottom. The F tier slots are Tiny Henchman, Alter Ego, Ghastly Mask, and arguably Teal, Tiger, Sapphire. We actually had a bit of a discussion on that. I think it should be an F. I think most people do. And the reasons for these ones are mostly either the value you get from them is too low. So Tiny Henchman, Alter Ego, pretty low value, not particularly easy. You know, I mean, they're not hard to complete, but the value you get from it is just generally too low compared to the other quests. And so if you're getting offered something that provides more value, if you can finish it, it's going to be better. Ghastly Mask, on the other hand, is really difficult to complete. The quest difficulty on average is very difficult, or the payoff is also too low. So if you're getting offered something like a banner board, it might be easy-ish to complete, but you're probably not getting a lot of value. And unless there's some lobby that has a ton of end of turn effects, or you're somehow able to, you know, play for that on turn 4, and you know that, like, it's really hard for the value and the quest difficulty to line up in Ghastly Mask. And in the high value situations with like Fellbat or Charlie, it's usually just too hard to complete. Teal, Tiger, Sapphire, the issue with Teal, Tiger, Sapphire is that it incentivizes you to roll, and generally you're not wanting to roll. So one common theme with quests is you don't want to deviate too much from your game plan. You still want to play your game, but you want the bonus that the quests provide. And so Teal, Tiger, Sapphire has the opportunity to sort of take you away from that, incentivize rolling too much. And, you know, general Battlegrounds principle is you don't want to waste money buying unnecessary things that aren't giving you enough value or on rolling. So that's why Teal, Tiger, Sapphire, while it has its moments, especially with, you know, Fellbat comps and some of the consume comps, isn't rated too highly. Devil's in the details. The big thing is just it's not a ton of value. That's mostly where that sits. Yogg is a very difficult and rare quest, so a lot of people haven't even seen Yogg's Yogtastic Tasties, but it's very difficult to complete for the value that it's giving you, and that's not ideal either. And it's sort of random, and generally you want predictable things, and so that's why Yogtastic Tasties is in D. The C was an interesting bucket. So you might notice going backwards here that we have the partner in crime. This isn't something that was officially announced, but it's been seen enough times that I think it's basically confirmed to exist. And when it comes up is when there's only heroes that have buddies in your lobby. So no Sire, Denathrius, no Murloc Holmes, no Wogtoggle, any of those things, or Togwoggle, available. So everyone has to have a buddies, and then it'll be offered to everyone in the lobby. So if you have a good buddy, you can take it. But unfortunately for most heroes, even their golden buddy isn't going to compare to the power level of quests, and so that's not really ideal there. And so that's why that quest is in the C tier, but it's a cool Easter egg. I'm really okay with it, and I'm excited to maybe see it at some point, but I haven't seen it yet in person. But yeah, so keep your eyes out for that. Let us know in the comments if you run into it or you have run into it, what you think of the little Easter egg quest known as Partner in Crime, Get a Golden Buddy. Menagerie Mayhem is not great, but it does have a surprising amount of value, right? It's buffing your whole board, not just the menagerie units, and it's buffing it by quite a bit of attack. So if you have a good setup for it with a few menagerie units, especially amalgams and some divine shields that you can put on the board, it is a lot of value and it will ramp you up very quickly. So it's probably better than you were thinking. But again, in comparison with some of the other ones, and it's a relatively difficult, it's not super easy to proc. And so that's where it's in the C tier, just with again, the difficulty being sort of what holds it back. Speaking of Staff of Origination Cookbook, kind of struggle with the same thing. So Staff of Origination is on average the hardest quest to complete. I think Ghastly Mask with Felbat might have a higher top end difficulty, but on average, Staff of Origination is the hardest quest to complete. And because you're going to complete it very late on average, it's going to hold you back. The way the meta has developed, it's very tempo oriented, pretty quick. And so you're going to need to be able to survive without a quest until then. And despite it being a very big buff, that survival is going to be your challenge, right? If you get something that it can be done, it is very strong. It's very strong with the right setup, specifically Terragosa, keeping those buffs every turn. And it is 105 buff to your board. So when you do get it off, it is a very, very strong power spike. I would sort of predict that this is much better at a more casual level of MMR. And so if you are playing at that lower level and just looking to have more fun, where the games are a little bit slower, people aren't optimizing as much, take a gander on Staff of Origination, because it is fun to pull off, and it is a really, really big buff for your board. All of a sudden, everything's huge. So it's a fun quest, but really difficult. And so that gets it put in C tier. Cooked book, we had a lot of discussions on. It was I guess the big thing is it's really difficult to complete. It's sort of like a single Nomi, and if you don't have Nomi paired with like a recycling rate, you know how difficult it can be to pull off our beloved Panda Chef strategy. However, it has been explored, notably by Bonsuri and a few others, of staying down and sort of proccing it. And I think that the upside cookbook is potentially higher than this C tier, but I don't think it's fully figured out yet. And so this is one that we sort of discussed. We weren't really sure where to put it. We weren't sure where the cost brings it down to, because it is really difficult to complete, versus the potential payout, which if you do get it going or in the right situation, it is extraordinarily powerful. So yeah, cookbook, pretty good, very high upside, but very difficult to complete. So gets put in the C tier. And Snicker Snacks, very powerful quest, but very situational. And so the C here is more about how situational it is. If you have like economy battle cries in your shop and it's easy to complete, because it is a pretty easy quest to complete, or something like the buffing demons that buff by consuming in shop, and if you can set that up to get a brand, this can be a very, very powerful effect. I didn't even talk about Murlocs. Obviously, if you do have a good Murloc setup, that can be extremely strong, but it's a little bit harder to get that until later. Or even Beast, you can reborn your whole board with a Rattler. There's some cool applications to this. It's just very situational on when you can make it work. If you're not getting value from those battle cries triggering, you're not getting value, and that is an issue. If you are getting value from the battle cries and you can guarantee that, definitely try out Snicker Snacks. And for the B's here, we have a few interesting ones. So Red Hand and Theotar's Parasol are very sort of similarly placed in that they're very easy to complete. These are really easy to complete, and they're going to give you a lot of stats really early, helping you stabilize that mid game, not lose too many fights. Red Hand, if you can proc it during combat, so you're getting that buff right away, if you hold a minion in hand before it goes off, it can be extremely powerful because you're kind of like speeding it up a turn. And that 12-12 buff, it's good stats sort of early, but then later on you can sort of try and focus it on some more premium units and maybe hold a cleave but maybe you don't have the ability to do that and you're just playing the stats, and that's okay too. It is ranked a little bit lower than some of the other tempo things because it is delayed a turn and you have to hold a minion in hand, which isn't great because that is sort of reducing your tempo, reducing the cadence of everything. But it is a lot of buffs, right? 12/12 is quite strong. Detached Parasol is similar, right? It's really easy, probably the easiest quest to complete. You get 8 health every turn. That 8 health is permanent. The stealth isn't as good. It's not as impressive until you get the right setup. So if you get something with like a Baron, a Pashmar, where you can sort of guarantee some of that avenge value, Bird Buddy, again, same avenge value, or like a Juggler or Tank, any of those things that you can really guarantee value on, it does become really potent. And that health can be really helpful in playing around like zaps and other sorts of techs. But the main thing is that you're just getting a lot of value really quickly with that plus 8 health. Evil Twin isn't super easy to complete. It's a sort of a medium difficulty. It's not the hardest, but it's definitely not easy either. And that's because the upside potential of Evil Twin is so great. And the big thing to consider when you're looking at Evil Twin is, do you have the ability to control what you're copying? And if you can control what you're copying and copy a premium unit, it's going to be a premium quest. If you can copy a Divine Shield, Foe Reaper, Wind Fury, you know, maybe it's with Alakir, something like that, it is very strong. If you're just copying a giant taunt like a Duo or like a Battlemaster or Wrathweaver, where it's not a premium unit and it's really hard to maybe not play around that Evil Twin buff, you have to consider that and maybe don't dismiss Evil Twin, but make sure that when you're choosing it, you're sort of devaluing it appropriately given the circumstances. Anima Bribe is similar in that it's situational. If you have a lobby where it's gonna incentivize selling and buying stuff, and this is a pretty difficult one as well, so you have to be able to complete the quest. But if you can complete it at a reasonable pace and start that dancing and start stacking those stats onto premium units, obviously Cleave's the big one. If you haven't seen a 200 Divine Shield Cleave yet, just wait. I'm sure you will soon enough. That's sort of what you're considering with Anima Bribe is, can you complete it on time? And that's the biggest thing, right? And that's why I said at the beginning, all of these are so dependent on how difficult the quest is. Those are variable. They change based on the situations. They'll change based on your hero and what they're paired with, and you know what shops you're getting and what you have available to you. So if you can complete it on time, very powerful. But again, if you're playing too long without any value, it's probably not worth picking up. And so that brings us to A tier, and A tier was super interesting. A tier is a fantastic one to discuss. So in here we have Pilfered Lamps. Pilfered Lamps is probably the highest upside quest in the game. The ability to turn pairs into triples can have a domino effect where you just sort of snowball out of control with golden 6-drops and all sorts of wild, wacky stuff, and you can create extremely strong boards, but it is one of the hardest quests to complete. It is close to Staff of Origination. Not quite there, but very close. And if you can't, you're not getting the same immediate tempo boost, right? It's not going to give you 105 stat boost unless you have absolutely phenomenal chains on your pairs. So you're going to have to keep in mind that you're going to live, right? You're going to be able to complete the quest and live and then get into a real build. If you can do those, Pilfered Lamps absolutely has probably the highest upside of any of these quests, except for maybe Sandstone. And it is just that good. It's just difficult. And so if you're going up against a bunch of people that have Mirror Shield, Smoking Gun, Ritual Dagger, these are some of these tempo quests that are quite easy to complete. Mirror Shield and Smoking Gun were like S tier before they got nerfed a little bit, and kudos to the devs for being quick on the balance on those, but they're still very good. They're reasonable to complete, pretty easy, and a lot of tempo. You're probably not going to lose fights in the mid game. The reason Mirror Shield is below Ritual Dagger and Smoking Gun is because you have to invest some resources into it, right? You have to roll, you have to buy the units. Smoking Gun is immediate you have immediate strength on board, and Ritual Dagger isn't immediate, but it is a lot of free scaling. And if you've watched any of our past videos, you know how potent free scaling is. Without having to invest resources, you can get very strong. If you can set up a consistent, decent death battle board, you're putting, you know, sometimes that 12-12 for red hand on the board immediately, or 16-16, 20-20, even more. Extremely strong, and eventually you can put shields on those, taunt if they're beasts. Just really good scaling, and it's really easy to complete. So that's why Ritual Dagger is where it is. Now, Wondrous Wisdom Ball is a really interesting one because it's maybe the most fun to play because it's got so many different effects that it can proc. And I'll show the effects real quick here. But there's 10 different effects that Wisdom Ball can proc. And the problem with Wisdom Ball, the reason why it's not S tier, is that not all of them are going to provide you a ton of value. There's a lot of times where you're rolling past a Divine Shield shop or a stat buffed shop, which is being buffed by the tavern tier that you're on, if you didn't know. Or like a random, you know, some higher level minions. If they're not good, you're not going to buy them. You shouldn't buy them. And so you're not always getting value from all the rolls. And again, you shouldn't be rolling that much. You want to stick to your game plan. But if you are playing something like Beast that you're rolling for specific units, or you have, you know, Hogger and are playing APM Pirates and it copies your board, like the upside of Wondrous Wisdom Ball is extraordinarily good. And so it's not super hard to complete. It's not a guaranteed win. There's some upside, there's some downside, but it's why it's in this A tier. Victim Spectre is a really interesting one too, because it is very easy to finish and it's guaranteed value, and the potential for a high roll is very high. The peak of copying premium units with a little bit of work on your positioning and trying to force certain units to be copied, whether it's Bran, Baron, some 6 drops like Eliza or Felbat, the peak high roll of Victim Spectre and how early you can get it, the floor value of just getting minions every turn is quite strong. Even if you go against the ghost, it'll give you the last minion that died from your last fight, even if nothing of your on your board dies. So you're getting guaranteed value, and that's something to be pretty mindful of. So if you hit it, if it's the right situation, really strong. If you can land like an early triple and start trying to copy it, and you start getting luck in that, the peak high roll of Victim Spectre is insane for how easy it is to complete. The friends we made along the way, very interesting. This one varies a lot based on what tribe it's offering to you. So if it's something like Murlocs or Naga, or even you know, something like Pirates, it'll be more premium. But if it's something like Beasts or Mechs, where individual cards aren't going to do you a lot of good, you're not going to get value, you're not getting econ from them, it's way less potent. Elementals are a very premium thing, right? Because getting Tavern Tempests and Elementals can be extraordinarily strong from this card. And so judge based on how good the units it's giving you are, or the minion type it is, and then how difficult it is to complete. But 2 minions a turn is extraordinarily strong. This is great on Galliwix because that'll play out to like 4 gold every turn, if not more. It's really strong, and it helps give you a direction. So at a more casual player level, being able to complete this and get sort of a guided direction where it's saying, hey, go Elementals, you know, that's easy enough to follow. And so high A tier for this one. Really strong. It's just a little bit slow, so you got to make sure that you're keeping that in mind as you go into some of these tempo oriented quests. And in the S tier, so finally clearing this up here, another hidden body is not in the game right now, but it was for a little bit. It was removed because the animation was so slow. If you saw me during the playtest, there was moments when it took like 15 seconds for the animation to play out, and it just resulted in so many people not being able to finish their turns. It can proc multiple times in a turn. However, once that animation is fixed, it'll be put back in the game. And if it is put back in the game with the quest difficulty that it was at on release, it will be S tier. The ability to discover every turn or more and guide yourself is extraordinarily strong. It can chain things, so if your quest to complete it is something like playing minions, well, as you discover a minion and play it, it will progress your quest. And so this is an extremely good quest. It was probably S tier even with the animations, if not A tier. It was difficult, but if you knew what you were doing and knew how to utilize it, extraordinarily strong. And so we'll see when that comes back, how that plays out. It's only gold. You've probably figured out by now. It was, during the playtest, probably the most broken quest. It was so easy to complete, and the upside is insane. You've probably seen more leapers now since the leapers release, when they were extraordinarily broken, because it's so easy to get a golden parrot, a golden baron, any of these golden premium units that can really take value of. Stolen gold is so valuable, and it's not that hard to complete. A big theme of these really good quests is they're not that hard to complete, because if you're playing with them and you're getting value, that is better than, spending all your turns playing towards the quest and never getting there. Stolen gold is able to give you a value in a ton of ways, whether it's genie, baron, tanks, strugglers, avenge units. So many things can give you a ton of value, a ton of tempo, a ton of econ, just lots and lots of stuff. So stolen gold, still S tier, way up there. And our best quest is Secret Sandstone. This one is rare. It's only available on, I think, 8 heroes. But on those heroes, if you're able to hit it, it is not that hard to complete. And the upside is insane. You're doubling every discover. And that's not just from hero powers. That's from triples. That's from any, primal fins. You're getting doubles. That is so good for finding triples, for chaining them, because then if you do hit that triple, you're getting doubles of the discovers, right? So you can discover pairs of 6 drops. If you're scabs, you can steal pairs. If you're Queen Ashara, you can get Orgozoas. You can discover pairs from the Orgozoa discovers. It is just insane how strong Secret Sandstone is. If you find that one, highly recommend that you take it on pretty much any of the heroes that it's offered on, and do your best to complete it so you can get as much value as possible. I hope this overview of the quest, I did it really quick. I just tried to, go through everything as best as possible and kind of condense our 4-hour discussion into a digestible length of video. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did, please leave a like, share it, subscribe to the channel if you want more content like this, and comment what your thoughts on the quests have been so far. I've been loving them. I think Battlegrounds is in the best state it's been in a long time, maybe over a year even. It's really good right now. Battlegrounds is fantastic, and big shout out to the devs for making a wonderful game. I'm really happy with quests, and I'm really happy with the potential that, hopefully we see more quests added, more rewards added, continued tuning. I think it'll be really exciting, and this is a really cool mechanic that I've been enjoying a lot so far. And I hope this tier list, this discussion, even if things do get tweaked, how to think about these quests and these quest rewards has helped. And yeah, as always, be sure to check out the stream for the next time we do a discussion like this. And as always, peace.